right to the end, culminating in a 5-year jail sentence, although they say they are going to appeal, but at least it's a start. The way I tend to look at these things is to focus more on the institutions, and there's a reason why I do that, and I think that's what analysts also want to see. There's a general misconception that institutions are things that you import from another country. I think Obama spoke about institutions, and people say, oh, we are bringing institutions from abroad, but that's not what we mean by institutions. Institutions refer to robust and comprehensive structures, mechanisms of social order that work to govern the behavior of individuals within a community. I was giving an example just before that if you have someone who's an illiterate and can't read traffic signs, and he's driving in Nigeria, and if he comes into the UK, for example, he's either going to jail or going to have an accident very quickly because of DVLA. Now, DVLA, that's the licensing agency. They are an institution. They're very robust. They have rules. They have punitive measures. There's a lot of training. There's a lot of don't do this and do that. That's what institution is. So it takes time to build quality institutions, a lot of time. But if you don't build them, you're going to have a jungle. And you see, Nigeria is an environment where we had a governor who disguised himself as a woman to escape the UK and became a star in Nigeria. We had another governor that actually went to jail and was hailed and welcomed. Who knows, he may be a vice president or a presidential candidate some other day. So these kinds of things don't, I'm not as impressed with these kinds of announcements and cases as I would have been if indeed we are working on the institutions that govern human behavior, govern the behavior. And I don't mean importing something from the UK, building something that works for us.
So the main plank of Buhari's election, obviously, was anti-corruption.
Yes.
And so this, so many months on, one single
less than
arrest
£1 million,
and imprisonment.
And the vehicles were actually bought.
Yeah.
Obviously, it is wrong, and he didn't go through the right process. But when you compare this to what happens in many of the states, especially where the parties have been in power for a long time and they have not been replaced by other political parties, because when you have new parties coming in, obviously they have another agenda, and there's a reason why they want to expose these things.
International opinion looking in on this, and they're saying to themselves, okay, Buhari, as I've said, the main plank was anti-corruption. We've seen one single individual put in prison. This is a bit of a joke. What about all the other allegations that have been made about major individuals, whether it be Patience Jonathan, Jonathan himself, we've had Alison Dizani, the oil minister, allegations, completely allegations, innocent until proved guilty. But this is paltry compared to what it should be,
worse,
surely.
remember when we were speaking about the Malibu case, the Attorney General put in writing, that this is how we do things in Nigeria. The Attorney General did that. So if the Attorney General is telling you this is how we do things, then you know that the real problem is fixing how we do things. So, and people don't want to change how we do things because they want to also benefit from how we do things. So I think it's a multiple, it's not an easy problem. Buhari is, I'm sure he's not well, we all know. I mean, he's overwhelmed by some of these issues. Corruption is not easy to fight. It will fight back. But I would rather as we attack these cases, we focus more on building the institutions, ensuring these things don't happen anymore, anywhere. And we do this through a more comprehensive and more robust approach.
Our African business analyst, David Bode Oshosami, speaking there to David Glencourse, our anchor in London. Now, the closure of Abuja Airport will now take place at midnight tonight, a day later than planned. However, flights are not expected to be running to normal schedules as preparations were already made for the closure. The increasingly decrepit and dangerous condition of the airport's sole runway forced the decision to close it down. It had ruptured in several places. Now, executives at the Geneva Motor Show have been voicing their fears over Brexit. Representatives from car makers from around the world say they hope Brexit negotiations would allow tariff-free cross-border trading to continue in the auto industry. Companies with assembly or part production in the United Kingdom, such as Ford, General Motors, BMW and Nissan, face decisions over future UK investment and production after a majority of the country's voters opted to leave the European Union in last year's referendum. Ford operates 2 plants in the UK, Dagenham in England, which opened in 1931, and Bridgend in Wales. Last week, a union said that more than 1,000 jobs were at risk of being lost at Bridgend.
Well, we have about 15,000 employees in the UK, and as you say, about half of them are making engines that we ship to Europe, install in vehicles, and then some of them we re-import. So any kind of tariff for us and the whole industry would be a huge headwind. And also for customers, you know, the prices would be much higher. We're very optimistic that the UK and the EU will work out a non-tariff agreement for our sector.
We're heading to a break, but plenty more to come, including sport and entertainment.